I didn't expect to be the one walking her home. There were plenty of others at the party, friends her age, colleagues, the kind of people who usually hovered around her with glasses of wine in hand, laughing too loudly at things she said. But when the music thinned out and the night air cooled, it was me standing by the door as she slipped on her coat. "Leaving already?" I'd asked, half to myself, because I didn't think she'd actually answer. Her eyes met mine. Not a smile, not exactly, but something softer. "It's late." That was it. No invitation, no suggestion. But my feet moved before my brain did, and somehow I was at her side when she pushed the door open, both of us stepping into the street where the buzz of the party dulled into silence. The walk was quiet at first. Street lamps stretched the shadows of her heels on the sidewalk, and I caught myself studying the way her stride was precise but unhurried, as if she knew people looked at her and didn't mind. My jacket felt too thin in the cold, but I kept my hands jammed in my pockets instead of offering her warmth, because what would that even mean, coming from me? "You didn't have to come," she said suddenly. Not sharp, but measured. I wanted to. My voice cracked on the second word, and I hated it. She glanced at me then, really looked. The corner of her mouth lifted, like she knew something I didn't. Or maybe like she was daring me to keep talking. But I didn't. We passed a row of shuttered shops. Her perfume was faint, but it clung in the chill like smoke. I realized I was matching her pace, slowing when she slowed, almost stepping in sync without meaning to. "You're quiet," she said after a while. "I talk too much when I'm nervous." The words left before I could catch them. Her eyebrows rose, amused, but she didn't press. Instead, she tilted her head back toward the night sky, and I caught the outline of her profile in the dim light, sharp, elegant, but tired too, like she'd carried the weight of a whole day and hadn't put it down yet. Something pulled at me then. Not attraction in the obvious sense, though that was there too. It was more the way she seemed, unreachable. Like I could walk beside her for 1,000 streets and still not touch what she kept hidden. When we turned onto her block, the quiet thickened. No cars. No voices. Just our shoes on pavement and the occasional scrape of leaves. She slowed near the gate to her building, hand brushing the iron railing, and for a second I thought this was it, that she'd nod politely, thank me, disappear inside. But she stopped. "You're shivering," she said, barely above a whisper. Her eyes dipped to my hands, still shoved stubbornly in my pockets. "I'm fine." She didn't move, didn't look away. Her hair shifted in the breeze, catching the light like silver threads, and she took one small step closer. Close enough that I smelled the faint trace of wine on her breath. I swallowed hard. My chest felt too tight. I wanted to speak, to fill the silence with anything, but every word jammed in my throat. Her gaze lingered on me, unreadable. Then, without warning, her fingers touched my sleeve. Just a brush. Barely contact. But enough to send a shiver through me that had nothing to do with the cold. And then, behind us, a sudden buzz. Her phone, vibrating inside her coat pocket. She froze, hand still grazing my arm, eyes flicking down as if the sound had cracked something open between us. Neither of us moved, the phone kept buzzing. She didn't answer. Instead, she slipped it from her pocket, glanced at the screen, then pressed it face down against her coat. The silence that followed was heavier than the noise had been. I didn't ask who it was. She drew in a slow breath, her hand leaving my sleeve, though not in a way that felt like rejection. More like restraint. "You should go," she said, eyes on the ground. But I didn't move. Are you okay?" She laughed once, small, without humor. "That's a dangerous question." We stood like that, shadows crossing under the streetlight. My chest buzzed with words I couldn't shape, so I said the first thing that broke free, "You didn't seem like you wanted to leave the party alone." Her eyes snapped to mine. Not angry. Just searching. "And you didn't seem old enough to notice." It stung, but not the way she meant it to. Because she wasn't wrong. I was 26, and she was, what? Mid-40s? 45, maybe 46. Old enough that my mother could have known her. Old enough that walking her home should have looked like kindness, not temptation. But my pulse told another story. She must have read something in my silence, because her face softened. "I've had enough parties," she murmured. "Enough beginnings that don't turn into anything." "Enough," she trailed off, shaking her head. I didn't press. But in the quiet, I thought about all the things I'd heard about her, that she'd been married once, maybe twice. That she'd built her life around work, travel, dinners that ended in separate taxis. I'd seen her around before, laughing too loudly at other people's jokes, never quite looking like she believed it herself. And me? I'd had a few short things that burned hot and died fast. College flings, careless nights. Nothing that lasted longer than a season. Maybe that was why I kept staring at her now, because she didn't feel like something you could lose in a season. "I shouldn't," she started, then stopped. "What?" Her hand tightened on the phone, knuckles pale. "You're too young." I laughed, though it cracked in the middle. "And you're too beautiful to be alone." Her eyes flinched at the word beautiful, like I'd touched a bruise. But she didn't pull away. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't say things you can't mean tomorrow." But I did mean it. Maybe more than anything I'd said in years. I wanted to tell her that. I wanted to admit how long I'd been noticing her, from the edges of rooms, from across tables where she never saw me looking. How I caught myself wondering what she listened to when she cooked, whether she ever fell asleep with the TV still on. But all I managed was, "I don't care about tomorrow." For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, almost without thinking, she reached up and brushed her fingers against my cheek. A fleeting touch, like she was testing if I was real. My breath stalled. The street stayed quiet, the world narrowing down to that single gesture. And though she let her hand fall, the echo of it stayed, her hand dropped away, and I thought that was the end of it. But then the gate creaked open behind her, and a man's voice cut through the stillness. "Claire." She stiffened. Didn't turn. Just whispered, barely moving her lips, "Don't." My throat tightened. A figure stood in the entryway, a man in a dark coat, keys in his hand, face half-shadowed under the porch light. Not young. Not old either. The kind of presence that carried authority without trying. He glanced from her to me. His brow furrowed. "Everything all right?" Her voice was calm, too calm. "Yes. Just, a colleague. Walking me back." Colleague. The word sat between us like a wall. I nodded, forcing my hands deeper into my pockets so he wouldn't see them shaking. "Evening," I muttered. The man studied me for a moment longer than necessary, then gave a small nod, like I'd been dismissed. He turned toward the door. "Don't stay out too late." The lock clicked shut behind him. Claire let out a breath she'd been holding. Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp with warning. "You should go now." But I couldn't move. My heart hammered with everything unspoken. Who was, "Don't." She cut me off, voice breaking for the first time. "Just don't." I should have listened. Should have walked away. But the words tumbled out anyway, why lie? Her lips parted, as if to answer, then closed again. She looked at the door, then back at me. Something raw flickered in her eyes, like regret and defiance colliding. "You're too young to know what lies cost," she whispered. "I'm not a kid." My voice came sharper than I intended. "Stop treating me like I don't get to choose." The silence that followed burned. My pulse thudded in my ears, waiting, for what, I didn't know. Then she stepped closer. So close I felt the warmth of her coat brush my arm. Her voice lowered. "Do you have any idea what this would do to me? To you?" "I don't care." Her laugh was bitter, almost trembling. "You think that now. Until someone finds out. Until you wake up and realize you ruined something you can't fix." The night pressed heavy around us. My chest ached with the urge to say the one thing I hadn't yet: "You're the only one I see." But the words stuck in my throat, too dangerous. Instead, I leaned in, just enough that the distance shrank to inches. My breath mingled with hers. I saw her eyes flick down, then up, then close for half a second too long. And then the porch light above us snapped on. We both jerked back. The door opened again. The man stood there, holding a forgotten set of papers. His eyes swept over us, sharp, suspicious now. Claire forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good night," she said quickly, pushing the gate open wider for me. I stumbled back, heart pounding, as she turned away. But before she closed the door, her gaze caught mine, an unspoken plea, or maybe a warning. And then she was gone that I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the look she gave me before the door shut, the look that felt like both a warning and a promise. By morning, my phone was still dark, no messages. But I couldn't stop thinking. Couldn't stop replaying it. By late afternoon, I found myself outside her building again. I told myself I was just walking, just passing through, but my feet betrayed me. The windows above glowed faint with lamplight. I almost turned back. Then her voice cut through the air. "You shouldn't be here." She stood on the steps, coat pulled tight around her, hair loose like she'd stopped caring how it fell. Her eyes, God, her eyes, looked tired, restless. "I had to see you," I said. Her jaw tightened. "That's not an answer." I laughed, hollow. "Neither's, colleague." Her face changed at that. She came down the steps, fast, her hand gripping the railing as though she needed it to steady herself. "Do you think this is a game? Do you think I can just do this?" Her voice cracked on the last word. I wanted to reach for her, to say anything that would soften the tremor in her throat, but I forced myself still. "I don't think it's a game. That's why I'm here." She shook her head, half furious, half broken. "You don't understand. He's not just my husband. She stopped herself, biting her lip hard enough to pale it. I waited, pulse in my ears. She didn't finish. Instead, she pressed a hand to her forehead. "You're so young. You don't know what it means to need someone and hate yourself for it." The words punched through me. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. "Don't tell me what I don't know. You think I haven't spent nights staring at my phone, wishing you'd notice me? You think I haven't," I swallowed, the confession searing my throat. "I can't stop thinking about you. Every room you walk into, stop." Her voice was barely audible. Her eyes glistened, and for a second I thought she'd cry. But instead she looked up at me, fierce, almost desperate. "If you say that again, I won't be able to let you go." We stood so close the cold air felt hot. My chest brushed her coat with each breath. I wanted to close the distance. To take the risk she couldn't. But then, movement. A shadow across the upstairs window. The faint outline of a figure pacing inside. She saw it too. Her hand shot out, pressing flat against my chest. Not to push me away, but to hold me there, right at the edge. Her touch burned through fabric, more intimate than a kiss. "Don't," she whispered, voice trembling. "Not here. Not now." The window above creaked open. I froze. She did too. And everything we'd held back hung between us, waiting to shatter. The window above shut again, sudden, like someone realized they'd been seen. We both held still, breath caught in the space between us. Her hand was still pressed against my chest, her pulse quick under her skin. Then she let go, fast, as if burned. "Go," she said, sharp now. "Urgent." I shook my head. "Not until you tell me the truth." Her eyes flicked to the upstairs window, then back to me. Her voice dropped. "It's not just a marriage on paper. It's complicated." That's not an answer. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked away, jaw tight. For a second, I thought she'd keep the wall up. But then she exhaled, shaky. "He's my husband. But he's also your professor." The words sliced through the air. My stomach dropped. Images collided, lectures, assignments, the way he spoke about my wife, in passing, like she was some distant figure. Never once had I imagined her. I stammered, heat rushing to my face. "That's impossible." "It's true." She wouldn't look at me. "Do you understand now? What you're risking? What I'm risking?" The world tilted under me. It wasn't just the age gap anymore, the secret nights or stolen glances. It was betrayal with teeth. If he ever found out, my future, her life, everything would detonate. And yet, even as the weight of it crushed down, I couldn't pull away. "You should have told me," I whispered. Her head snapped up, eyes flashing. "And what would you have done?" "Walked away." I didn't answer. Because maybe I should have. Maybe that would have been the right, sane thing. But standing there, with her coat brushing mine, with the memory of her hand against my chest still burning, no, I wouldn't have. "You knew," I said instead, voice raw. "You knew I'd stay anyway." Silence. She didn't deny it. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket, loud in the hush of the street. She flinched. For a second, I thought she'd ignore it. But then she pulled it out, and the glow of the screen lit her face. A message. From him. "Where are you? Come inside." Her throat worked as she read it. Then she looked at me, really looked, like she was memorizing my face in case she never got to again. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. The words gutted me. "Then don't end it," I said, stepping closer. My voice broke on the plea. "Don't lie to yourself." She shook her head, fighting something in her chest. Her fingers brushed mine for the briefest second, like a secret handshake of goodbye. But then the door creaked open upstairs. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. Her eyes widened. Panic, sharp and real. She grabbed my wrist, hard. "Go now," she hissed, shoving me toward the corner of the street. I stumbled back, breath ragged. But before I could turn, before I could vanish into the dark, his voice rang out, "Claire. Who are you talking to?" Her grip on my wrist tightened. Too late. The sound of his footsteps came down the stairs, each one striking harder than the last. A silhouette filled the doorway, his frame cutting against the light inside. "Claire." His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that made my chest lock. "Who's out there?" She stepped forward fast, blocking me from view. "No one. Just some kids from the party." "Wrong street." "Kids." His tone sharpened. Sounded older than that. He leaned out, and for one terrifying second his eyes swept over the dark. I pressed back into the shadow of the gate, pulse hammering like I was 17 again, caught sneaking into somewhere I didn't belong. Claire's hand shook where it held the railing. "It's late," she said evenly. "Go back inside. I'll be up in a minute." He hesitated, suspicion flickering across his face. Then, slowly, he withdrew. The door clicked shut again, but it didn't sound final, it sounded like a test, like he was listening for what came next. I exhaled too loudly. She spun, furious whisper tearing through the night. "What the hell are you doing here?" I wanted to answer with excuses, but the truth ripped out instead. "Because I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about you, and I don't care if it's wrong, I don't care if he finds out, I want you." Her face crumpled, not anger, not rejection, but something heavier. She took 2 steps toward me, close enough that the lamplight caught the shine of her eyes. "You don't understand. If this blows up, he ruins you. He'll bury you in ways you can't imagine. Your degree, your career, I don't care," I cut in. "Yes, you do." Her voice cracked. "You think this is love, but love isn't supposed to destroy." I should have shut up. But all the restraint I'd carried for weeks snapped. "Then why did you touch me last night? Why did you let me walk you home? Why did you let me believe?" Her lips parted, trembling. "Because I wanted it." The silence between us lit up like fire. Every word I hadn't said, every glance we'd stolen, it all slammed into that one confession. She stepped closer again, almost reckless now. "But I can't. I can't blow my life apart for you. Not yet." I swallowed hard. "So this is it? You walk away, and we pretend?" Her hand hovered in the air, shaking, before landing against my chest again. This time she didn't pull back. "No. We don't pretend. We remember." Her eyes locked on mine, fierce, breaking. "And if the day ever comes when I don't have to lie anymore, then you'll know." I covered her hand with mine, holding it there, refusing to let it slip away just yet. My throat burned, my chest felt split open. From inside, his voice carried again. "Claire." She flinched. I leaned down, close enough that only she could hear, "Don't forget me." And then I tore myself free and vanished into the dark, leaving her at the door, her hand suspended in the air as though still holding me that I didn't see her for weeks. At first, I tried to bury myself in routine, lectures, assignments, late nights with headphones blaring loud enough to drown out her voice in my head. But it never worked. Every time I passed his office, every time I walked the same streets at night, she came back. Not just her face, her touch, her hesitation, the way she whispered "remember." It was torture. And yet, I clung to it. Because remembering her meant I hadn't imagined it. Then, one evening, I found myself outside that same block again. I didn't mean to be there. My feet just carried me. The lights in her windows glowed soft, golden, like before. For a long moment, I just stood across the street, not daring to move. And then the door opened. She stepped out slowly, as though she'd known I was there all along. No coat this time, just a cardigan wrapped loosely around her. She didn't cross the street. Didn't wave. She only stood there, looking at me. I froze. She finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "You shouldn't come here anymore." The words hit hard. But then, her eyes betrayed her. The same raw flicker I'd seen that night under the street lamp. The truth she couldn't say out loud. I crossed the street anyway. Every step felt like breaking a rule I couldn't unlearn. When I was close enough, I stopped. She didn't move. "Why are you here?" she asked. I swallowed. "Because you told me to remember." Her lips pressed tight, trembling for a moment before she whispered, "I thought you'd forget." I couldn't. My voice was hoarse. "I don't want to." For a heartbeat, we just stood there, caught in the gravity of everything we shouldn't be, everything we already were. I wanted to take her hand, kiss her, promise her something I wasn't sure I could give. But she broke the silence first. "I can't leave him. Not yet. Too many ties. Too much damage." She glanced at the house behind her, then back at me. "But you deserve more than stolen nights and half-truths." I hated that she was right. Hated that she said it anyway. But in her voice, I heard something else, not rejection, not finality, but a promise she was too afraid to keep. So I did the only thing I could. I nodded, though my chest felt like it was tearing in two. "I'll wait. Or I won't. But I'll never forget." Her eyes softened. For the first time, she reached for my hand openly, no shadows to hide in. She held it for just a second, her thumb brushing across my knuckles like she was writing something invisible there. And then she let go, stepping back toward the house. "Good night," she whispered. I turned away before she could see the way my face broke. And as I walked into the night, the weight of her touch still burned against my skin, an ending that didn't feel like an ending at all. Thought Balloon, did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?